Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Village Council meeting. We will call our meeting to order. It's 7:04 p.m. And we do have an agenda to adopt. I've got a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Deputy Mayor Gill, that Council adopt the agenda of regular meeting RM03-2022 as presented, unless anybody has any amendments or changes to make. All right, can I see a show of hands? All those in favor? 6 in favor, none against. Motion's carried. Do any of the councillors want to declare an interest in any of the items on the agenda tonight? All right, none noted. If anything comes up, just you're allowed to say whenever it becomes clear that you are in some kind of conflict. Number 5 on your agenda, councillor absences. And right now, got a motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Deputy Mayor Gill. The council excuse Councillors Moaz Hassan. I'll just make that Councillor Moaz Hassan because I don't think Councillor Bellefontaine was notified that he wouldn't be here. He might be late. And that would be to be excused from regular meeting RM03-2022. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Again, 6 in favor, none against. Motion's carried. We do have one delegate this evening, Sergeant John Cormier, and he'd like to come to the table to discuss council priorities with the RCMP. And you could, we'll ask you to just...
Is the camera there? I'm not sure the camera is.
It'll see you from all angles.
Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, it's one of these omnidirectional things.
There you go. Okay.
Welcome.
Sergeant John Comey here from the RCMP in Fort Simpson, just here to talk about the year's report and the statistics that we have for this month, February. During the month of February, we had the Fort Simpson RCMP had to respond to 95 calls for service. Breaks down as follows: so 77 calls to the town of Fort Simpson, 7 calls for Trout Lake, 1 call for Jamboree River, and 10 calls for service for Wrigley. We continue to assist things with the community priorities, which was listed last year: the community policing by crime prevention, by getting involved with the communities, and by tackling substance abuse as well. Broke down the calls just to give some more specifics about the calls. We had for the substance abuse priority, we had 5 Liquor Act occurrences, so that could be constituted as a person that's intoxicated in public. And so we also had 5 impaired driving related offense investigations for the town of Fort Simpson. We also had 11 well-being checks on people as well too for intoxicated, not able to care for themselves as well too. So we had those calls as well. Significant calls that we had for this month, for notable occurrences for the month, we had 7 criminal charge for the community here, which included assault, robbery, and impaired operation. We had a couple of impaired operation counts as well. We also had a significant occurrence at the school. I'm sure it made social media with the bomb threat at the school, where we had to evacuate the school. That matter is still under investigation. A 15-year-old suspect was the prime suspect in that one, and we're still investigating that matter further. So we met with the DEA and the school board, DEA, and the school principal. They wished to go with diversion because it was a person that was outside of town in Alberta. Still following up with that as well too. Other involvement that we've had, we were involved. We're involved. We participated in the fire ceremony for providing some good spirits to the war in Ukraine right now. Also, we made some patrols on a lot of traffic this month as well too. We made lots of patrols as well too for impaired drivers. With warmer weather, we find that there's a lot more people testing and trying to get away with impaired driving. So we try to increase those, especially during this time of the year as well too. For breakdown of calls for service for the month of February, we had I kind of broke it down with the summary. We had 12 assault calls. We had 1 sexual offense calls, 2 break and enter calls. We had 1 theft under $5,000 call, 2 reports of drug trafficking, 5 liquor act, 1 unlawful sale for bootlegging, 15 disturbance call, 16 disturbance calls in total, 1 mischief, 13 mischief for people obstructing from enjoying the property of their own property. 3 impaired driving and 14 other complaints that could be as any bylaw issues that we report to us that are going to classify in those categories here. So, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, open to any discussion. If there are any questions, you're going to refer it to.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. Does any questions arise out of that report that we can ask Sergeant Cormier? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I'm just wondering, are you still involved with the MAD
With the
campaign?
what? The MAD campaign?
Yes.
Yes,
There
here.
you are, okay.
Yeah.
Any activities coming up?
With MAD, not that I'm aware of. We don't have a specific person designated for MAD. We do support MAD. Was there any presentation done for MAD before by our city members?
Usually they have,
Like you're talking about mothers against drunk driving?
Yes,
Okay, gotcha.
yes.
Okay,
Usually I see them in front of the rec center, giving out ribbons and things like that, just making their presence known in the
I think that's
community.
just, I think that's their own initiative. I don't think it's us.
Oh,
Did
okay.
you see our
the
CP
police-
member?
Yes, they were
Really?
involved.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I can inquire about that if that'd be something the community would be
That's
interested in.
maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah,
That was
it's
done.
usually once
Around
or
Christmas.
twice a year.
Oh, okay. I can
And-
confirm that wasn't us.
Yeah.
So it must have been their
Sure, yeah.
own.
Yeah,
I
Matt,
think
Matt
Sharon-
probably initiates
Sharon
it and you guys just,
Sharon Allen's the one who
Yeah.
usually starts the process.
Yeah, I just wondered if she was still.
Okay, I can inquire by the detachment members. Some of the detachment members must have been here when it happened, so I can inquire and
Mhm.
we can do that again if there's a wish of the community to do that, so.
Sergeant, can you tell us what the staff level is here in Fort Simpson right now?
Short,
Short?
yeah.
Okay.
To summarize, we're short. So as I mentioned before, for myself, I'm in that kind of predicament as well myself. The housing is an issue. For myself, I have to travel from YK to here because there's not, or public works housing is an issue for, to basically have a member housed. So for myself, there wasn't any spot for my personal self to have, to accommodate 5 of us here for hotels. Our public works housing needs some work, but again, I'm not complaining because that's most of people that were affected by the flood are the same boat as I am as well too. So we're waiting for those GNWT homes to be ready. That's a problem that GNWT house with their housing cooperative. So we're waiting on that. But to answer your question, Mayor, the staffing level right now, we're at 6. We should be at 9. We're at 6. We have 2 incoming members that we were told, so it's bringing us up to 8. And with our corporal position, which falls under the Wrigley, I guess, budget, it's been advertised as well too. That should be closing soon. The last time that it was advertised, it collapsed, meaning that it had to be re-advertised again. That's we're hoping as well too that if it gets, if we can find someone for that position, that would bring us up to full staff. But again, the problem that I have as well too, that I have for myself, is the same problem I'm going to have for those 2 incoming members as well too. We have no proper homes to provide them. So we're hoping to figure that out as soon as we can, and then to bring more members here. So to answer your question, we're at 2/3 full capacity.
And one woman or 2 women?
2.
Okay.
Which is very rare for a detachment this size of what I've seen. 2 female members for 6 members in total, including myself.
Yeah.
That's a good ratio. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah. I've been in attachments of bigger than 9 and with no female members, so it's nice to have. And then what I've gathered as well too this last month, it's very well respected by the locals as well too. Some, especially female victims, would prefer to talk to a female member, and not that they're trying to shop around which to talk to, but it's more comfort, right, for a victim to talk to a female member. And we have the luxury to provide that here now, so which is nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Any other council questions? Because that, if not, we can maybe get on to your topic of the council priorities,
Sure.
like, and as far as what they would be, can you tell us what our priorities were last year?
Yeah, last year's priority I've listed and that's kind of what these MERS reports are built upon is regards to, not that we're trying to ignore everything else, it's just, it's something that we can focus on or put more priority on in regards to our community involvement, our proactive approach as well too, and how we can tackle that. Of course, this last year was, everyone was affected by COVID still. We're hoping that it's gonna be on the wayside. But that's what the priorities were last year, were as we were kind of focused on in regards to our proactive approach. So community policing by crime prevention, which and kind of emphasize a lot of things. The crime prevention aspect could be many things. It could be dare conversations at the school. It could be fraud talks with the elders at the elder center. There's many things that we can kind of incorporate in that. So I would recommend council to try to keep that one because we can do a lot with that one. It's not just focused on one specific things. Talking from the past of what I've seen, some communities that have had, they really wanted to have a traffic initiative, a trafficking, not trafficking with substance, but traffic on the road, but they had no stop signs, no speed limits. So it was kind of unrealistic expectations for us to try to. I mean, I'm talking about an isolated community that only had one road, no stop signs, no speed limits. So very hard for us to try to. Well, we can still do it, but it was kind of a waste of a priority in that aspect. So I like these two, to be honest, because the substance abuse, and again, it's usually the part what we see in most calls in these communities is mostly fueled by alcohol. So the substance abuse is also a big component that kind of envelops a lot of things that we can kind of combat as well too. So substance abuse can go with the route of check on well-being. It can go in the route of trying to have talks with addiction counselors as well too. Maybe we can try to arrange something to do that as well too. The DARE program at the school as well too for substance abuse kind of goes under that. Impaired driving initiatives as well too. Check stops. There's a lot that we can do with these things. So I recommend council not to try to specific incident, but be more kind of global where we can kind of develop more things into that initiative. So, but again, it's open for discussion as well too, what we can kind of prioritize. And again, I'm not saying that prioritizing these things means that we're delaying or neglecting the other things. There's just more things that we can kind of focus on for a year, especially for a fiscal year or so.
Okay.
We don't need to have an answer now. It can be open for discussion. We usually set our priorities in April, so for fiscal years. We don't need to have it hard set for April. We can table topic for next month as well too, or we can have a discussion among yourselves, and then advise us what we'd like to have for priorities, and we can kind of set the goals for this next fiscal year whenever we make a decision. So
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming and reminding us of our ability to help work with the RCMP in this way. And maybe in the next couple of weeks, we can kind of discuss it at our next committee meeting and see what, as a council, we might suggest. I know you don't want too many priorities because then they're not priorities anymore. And you want to keep it kind of general enough that it encompasses more than just one activity. So I think that's a good parameter to work around, and we'll see what we can.
Sure. And then if Kevin wants to send me an email with what it is, and I can type the agreement letter, and then we can just have it signed by the next meeting, or the one after that, doesn't really matter, but, yeah, whatever works.
Okay. And again, thank you very much for coming down.
You're
and
welcome. Any
presenting
new
the
issues
report.
that I should be aware of? I'll ask council, is there any new issues that I should be concerned or that we could bring up that we should be aware of? Or
I mean, we all saw what happened in Fort Smith with some of the youth and
Yes.
the break-in, guns, proper storage of rifles or handguns. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I just know that it was an unfortunate incident that occurred over there. And
we, I'm sure the media is advised that he's been apprehended when
Yeah.
injured. Okay, gotcha. I
um,
get my news internally, so I don't really focus on CBC News.
yeah.
But he's been apprehended, so.
And, you know, I don't know if it will become a priority or not, but youth in the community and the attention that we pay to them, it's very important, right? And it has a lot to do with how our community will be. I think that's something to keep in mind, councillors, as we think about our priorities. Deputy Mayor Gill?
I'm just wondering, have you a communications plan in case of something like that occurring here?
Communication is made for us to channel the information to council.
No, because I'm thinking of Fort Smith where
Yeah.
community members didn't seem to really be aware of what was going on. They didn't have hardly any information.
In Fort Smith or?
Yeah, in Fort Smith.
Oh, I'm not sure what plan they have.
Oh, okay.
I can tell you that if it happened here, I would give the mayor a call directly and let him know, and then the same with the chief as well too. Because it's part of our duties to inform you, and then however way that you guys want to send it out. But that will be my first call, will be to have the mayor, the chief, and advise them, and then they can send out the information to all the council members. For me to call every single council might be hard, and I'm not one to be on social media personally to do that. We have a media section to provide that information.
Okay.
So if it would happen here, I can tell you that, or other than all the calls that I would have to make to my higher abouts, would be to inform council directly and chief directly, and then from there having your media liaison send the information to the media.
Deputy Mayor?
Then my next question would be, from there, does the council have a communications plan?
If it's a risk to public safety, I think we would find a way to get the messaging out. It might depend on the circumstances.
Yeah.
I know there was some issues with the youth being underage and things like that.
Yeah,
That
the
might
other
have
thing as
caused-
well too, we have to keep in mind, and I'll break it down here more. The lack of information might be a good thing as well too. Because the lack of information, there's a lot of information that's what we call as holdback information, because whatever we give to the public is also going to the suspect as well too. So there might be a reason why we can't divulge the information at that point, because I think at the initial point of contact, and again, I'm just talking, not my expert opinion here, but because I wasn't there, but based on the information that we provided in Fort Smith, a lot of the information was still not being corroborated. So we can't really divulge that to the public, and I'm not knowing an accurate information where the suspect should be, where he could have the same access to everyone else. It might be a reason why it's held back and not shared, just because of the sensitivity of it all. But once it's, if it would happen here, I would share some information. What I could share, I would share it within reason of not impeding with their investigation as well too. Because in the end, public safety is the most important thing. And I would be able to share what I could share until I could share more, kind of thing. So I don't know if that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Okay, good.
Well, thank you once again,
You're welcome.
and we'll see you next month,
Hoping.
if not before, to
Yeah.
sign off on the
Sounds good.
priorities.
Sounds good. Well, thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
The councillors, item number 7, adoption of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes to take a look at. Motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Brown, that council approved the minutes of regular meeting 23-2022 of December 6, 2021. as presented, unless anyone has some amendments. Okay, then all in favor? And that's 7 in favor, none against. And the second set of minutes, I have a motion moved by Councillor Christensen, seconded by Councillor McPherson, that council approve the minutes of regular meeting 02-2022 of February 21st, 2022, as presented. Again, if anyone has any changes. Yes, Deputy Mayor?
Under, there's a correction needed, I think, under 7.B. Should it say February the 7th and not February 21st?
I think you are correct. Thank you for that.
Okay. That change is noted.
Also, in attendance, I don't see Maz's, Mr. Hazan, Council Hazan's name listed anywhere. Was he present or absent?
It was absent.
On the 21st?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was gone,
Okay.
By then.
It's not listed in the, it's not noted in the minutes.
that he's absent.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we could get that. That is, he was
Yeah.
excused.
It's on councilors' absences on line 5.
Yeah.
Right. So just on that first initial list, I
Yeah.
guess. Okay, maybe a couple of small changes to take note of there. So we'll put down as amended because SAO Corbin has taken note of those changes. And all those in favor then of the amended, 7, none against, motion's carried. Mayor's report, I just have one interesting thing to take note of, and that is that I was asked to participate on a show. Lauren McGinnis was doing a stand-in on a CBC national show called What on Earth. It's a climate change related show about things happening in Canada. The show was called Revisiting the Fort Simpson Flood, and it kind of took a look at maybe how Fort Simpson, as an affected community by climate change, is thinking about the future. How are we preparing? Looking back, were there lessons we learned? So I was involved with the interview on that show. There was also some other local people. Chief Gerald Antoine was on the show. A couple of individuals that lost a home here and they're having their home replaced. Derek Erasmus and Julia were on there as well. So look it up. CBC, What on Earth, Revisiting the Fort Simpson Flood. It's even on Spotify, so I guess we're international there now. And that's it for me. Any questions? Okay, I'll turn it over to our SAO. Go ahead.
Just a couple of things, Your Worship. Pancake breakfast is coming this Saturday for BBTL. And I was wondering if there's any councillors who would like to take a lead on organising that and making sure everything's been taken care of. Don't all rush together.
Pancake breakfast,
Yeah,
that's on the Saturday,
it's on the
right?
Saturday, yeah.
I could, depending on what's involved.
It depends, what's involved depends on how much help you have.
I will go, I will help. I
will help.
I will go.
Yeah, I will.
If you need some stuff to be cooked the night before or pre-cooked.
So I'll just see
Okay.
you before.
So we can talk after the meeting or tomorrow, and maybe I'll
Okay.
give you a call either or.
Just how many of the councillors are going to be able to make it on Saturday morning?
This Saturday coming?
Yeah,
I can,
Oh, excellent.
Okay.
Oh,
Everyone.
wow, that's great.
so,
I think the biggest they can cook prior to.
And I can do that the
Like
night
the
before.
night before?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just distribute that.
And what we've done in the past is we use the kitchen in the rec center, the convection oven.
Oh, yeah, to cook it there.
Hmm.
Okay.
So,
So we just,
I can help you cook after, like, if you want to prepare Friday night, I can help you with some of that. after bingo.
So we just need to decide, who's cooking what. Do you want
What's
to
the
cook the day
menu?
before? Do you want to cook the morning
What's the
of?
menu?
What time you want to get into the rec center in the morning? There's pancakes, bacon, sausage,
Scrambled eggs?
I think eggs, and then juice and coffee and tea. So
Okay.
we'll talk after.
Okay.
Okay.
Also, we'll be hopefully hired for bylaw officer sooner rather than later. I'll get a job ad out this week, but I was hoping that I could get some feedback from council, not right now, but whether by maybe a committee meeting at lunchtime or if all of council want to discuss, but priorities for what council would like to see from the bylaw officer in the future. So do we want, more enforcement or speed checks? What would we like? So I'd like a discussion with members of council that are interested. So if we want to do a committee meeting, we could do maybe community planning committee, or if everyone wanted to discuss it together, then.
Deputy Mayor Gill has a question.
If I remember right, Councillor Christensen wanted a copy of the job description. Has that been provided?
I have
Oh, you
received
did?
that,
Okay.
I can send it to everyone.
but yeah, you should probably send it to everyone.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's all on bylaw. If you'd like, we can set up a committee meeting. Is that something council would be interested in, the emergency planning committee? Or not emergency, community planning committee?
Good idea.
Okay. We're working on emergency planning and flood preparedness. We're updating the emergency plan. We have staff doing some work later this week with MACA on emergency planning, emo overview. Next week, I have scheduled a emergency response committee meeting at the rec center. And I was also hoping to do a session with all of council together, possibly late next week. We could do an evening, or we could do a 1 hour lunch session. It's really up to council.
Either or, I'm good with either or.
I think sorry, go ahead. I think it will take more than an hour,
I suspect it might.
so I would suggest probably in the evening.
In some ways, a lunch meeting is good because it forces you to keep it to an hour, but also we could do an evening session too. So we could do that. Any evening council wants. Really.
Later in the week's good for me, because when we have meetings on Wednesday, it means I sort of can't travel,
Yeah,
right? Like
I'll pick
the
it.
Wednesday lunch meetings or.
We could try a couple of lunch meetings. I mean, if one doesn't do it, we could do another one.
Or just have one evening meeting instead of a couple lunch meetings.
I'll send some options out by email and we'll see how people feel.
And sorry, Kevin, just on that, has
Yeah.
the Red Cross provided us with a follow-up report of what deficiencies we had from last year?
Not as of yet. I have had some more emails with the Red Cross last couple of days, and they're trying to set up another meeting with me. So, but we haven't gotten much traction lately. Apologies. We also have 9 new homes coming to Fort Simpson this month for flood impacted folks. So that's going to be a busy month for new homes. And that's all I have, Your Worship.
Okay. Has there been any discussion about who's going to own the vacant properties? The ones that they had to clear and the residents had to give up.
Oh, yeah, that's right too.
I haven't gotten anything confirmed, but if I understand correctly, they will be turned over to the village. don't know if you're
Okay. I guess still discussions ongoing and.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for the SAO? All right, thank you. And moving along to, number 9, tabled items and old business, warming shelter. This is here just because it is old business. If there's anything new to report, does anyone have it? Yes, go ahead, SAO Corrigan.
I just, I added this to the agenda because I wanted to update everyone very quickly. I know we've talked a lot about this in the past, so I'm hoping I can give everyone a quick update and we'll move on. We've had some staffing issues over the past week and we've had to close a number of days. As it stands right now, our time with the shelter is coming to an end at the end of March. Moving forward, there are a number of individuals who are heavily dependent on the shelter. The majority of those will be moving into new homes and will be taken care of by the end of March. And we've got staff that are working with some of these folks to try and make sure that whoever is heavily dependent on the shelter is taken care of. So with the night, temperatures temperatures warming up, and a number of these folks being taken care of by the end of March, the urgency of the shelter won't be as bad as it has been, and the urgent need. As it stands now, there's no plans to continue operating into shelter after the end of March. My hope would be that interested individuals, groups, or organizations would get a meeting together, and the village could assist in any way possible, and help with another organization or group to take it over. But what I would hope is that the village step back and let other groups take the lead on this, and other individuals who are focused on making it happen. And my hope would be that some good planning would happen between now and winter next year. I've had some conversations with different folks and organizations, and I believe there's a good possibility of either someone else taking it over, or perhaps mayor and council could lobby government and request that they take it over. I think everyone would agree that would be ideal. But as it stands now, we're taking a step back, and I'll continue having discussions with people. I'm not going to completely forget about it. I'll keep trying to push people in the right direction, and I hope it goes on, and I hope it succeeds without the village. But I just wanted council to be aware of where we're at right now.
Okay, any other thoughts on that? Okay, thanks for the update. Number 10, committee minutes and recommendations. We do have one set of committee recommendations. So I've got a motion moved by Councillor Browning, seconded by Councillor Wright, that council approved the recommendations of the Recreation Committee as outlined in the minutes of the meeting held Monday, February 14, 2022. Any discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7 in favor, none against. Motion's carried. Under new business, 11A. We got development permit variance requests for 2 detached units. I've got a motion moved by, Councillor Wright, although I don't have a seconder, so this will do to be with the variance request for the 2 mini homes. Can I get somebody to put that? So it'll be Councillor Tetzel seconding this motion, which reads that council approved the variance request by the government of the Northern Territories Department of Municipal and Community Affairs to allow for the placement of 2 prefabricated mini homes on lot 115, plan 364, which is zoned single detached and duplex residential. Discussion. Do do you want to make a comment, Sale?
I'd like to invite Operations Manager Mitch Gass to the table.
Okay,
Sure, so this application from MACA, it was just a bit of a little oversight on MACA's part. They put the wrong address in, submitted two applications with the same address. That's why it wasn't on last week's council meeting, 2 weeks ago. Exact same thing as the previous one. We approved a variance on 2 weeks ago. Too many homes, same thing, flood victim housing. Nothing different, setbacks the same, everything the same. You're probably all aware of this lot. IBL lot with an old house on it that's going to be torn down. So that may take place in the next couple of weeks. Now, the location of this lot, as it states in the map, is back to back, backyard to backyard with the existing one we approved 2 weeks ago. So that's the location. One facing 102 and one facing 101. Other than that, identical situation, absolutely identical situation. Any questions?
yes, Councillor Christensen.
Parking. I forgot to mention this at the last council meeting. Is there gonna be enough parking on the lot to accommodate 4
There'll-
vehicles, you know, like
There'll
everyone?
there'll be enough parking for 4 vehicles if they wish, but they're designing it for 2 vehicles at present.
Okay, because our roads are kind of narrow, and
Yeah.
once you have a lot of vehicles parking on those roads, you're
Yeah.
it's basically a single lane.
Yeah.
So I should have brought this up last meeting, concerns about increasing density without accommodating for parking.
So they've deemed it probably 2 parking spaces would have been enough for those mini homes, strictly because of the clientele that's going to be, living there. But there is enough room for 2 vehicles, a laneway with parking for 2 vehicles. I can talk to the developer as well. There is room for a second driveway for 2 more vehicles, correct. There's room for it, so that the option is there if necessary.
That's
Yep,
just
good
something I
point,
kind of
good point.
thought of later after we approved that last one. I am concerned about parking,
Agreed. Okay,
so if they can start planning to have 2 driveways or something like that, if they're gonna be increasing these, that would
again,
be
we're
ideal.
talking about a little bit of gravel, so
Oh, yeah.
it's not a big cost on their part, and I'm sure they'd agree right away. And we can make that a condition. I think that might be a nice thing to put a condition on that too.
Okay, any other concerns or questions for Mitch? Yes.
So will this,
So
right,
that's you right there.
yeah, that's
Okay.
me.
Oh.
This road here, will it be
Not really a road,
utilized
not really a road. That's right away.
right away?
Yeah,
Yes?
yeah.
They're not
No,
gonna be-
no.
Okay.
Like an easement.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, well, if there's no other questions, no other comments, I'll ask for a show of hands. All those in favor of approving the variance? 7 in favor, none against. Motion's carried. And 11A2, the second development permit variance request. A motion moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Tetzel. The council approved the variance request by Gillian Brown and John Paul Bernard to allow for the conversion of an existing detached garage to a detached secondary suite for rental purposes on lot 67, plan 1083. Any comments on that?
Okay, so this one is new. It's been an application put in by JP Bernard and Gillian Brown. I don't know it, but I think you're all aware of the house we're talking about. This is Todd Noseworthy's old house. And that garage, he's wanting to convert the garage into a separate secondary suite. And that's correct. Now, I know we've talked about this in the past, and we're not anywhere near having, being able to change the zoning and so forth at this stage. So he would require a variance to do this. He would like it looked at by council, and he's asking for a variance at this time. Setbacks on that existing garage, remember, he's not building anything, he's just converting the garage. So the footprint stays identical to what it is, and he's got a good 8 meter setback towards the road, towards Kazon Crescent, and 5 plus close to 6 meters setback from his neighbor's property, which would be Jonathan Tetzel. So it's actually located good. It's got a driveway in it too. He'd be responsible obviously for hauled water and sewer, which he's designed into it in the application. So the hauled water and sewer tank is within the building, not external to it. I see no negatives to it. He would still have to do his 14 days. The neighbors be informed, given a right to comment and so forth. But he'd like to just have an approval or not an approval, and then he can order materials and start planning it. If he orders materials now, I warned him before the 14 days, he may be stuck with materials if they go to a review board and he doesn't get approved. So, but that's what he's doing. No external changes at all. No giant decks. Really just a structural renovation and internal work. But again, this gives us more housing in town, and it's kind of gets our feet wet in the detached secondary suite thing with an existing structure. You know what I mean? So.
Okay, go ahead.
Did he submit, when he submitted his application, was there a sketch of?
Absolutely, I've got floor plans, I've got elevations, the whole thing, but nothing's really gonna change external to the building other than the quality of the finishes.
Mhm.
Building size is not gonna change, the height is not gonna change. A couple windows go in, a new exterior door, and everything happens internal to the structure. So from the road, you're not gonna see many changes, just upgraded a facelift on the exterior.
But,
Fire
yeah,
marshal.
but I think, it's important for council to see what is gonna be, yes, it's good to say, yes, it's gonna be in the structure, the existing structure and stuff. But if, this has to go for 14 days, I really would like to see what he plans to do with that structure, because we've had situations where development permits have come in and been approved, and after the fact, certain things have happened, and, we're stuck with the problem because we didn't do our due diligence to find out exactly what's going to be done. That's my concern. It doesn't, I just need to know a little more detail rather than just say, okay, there's the spot and, he's going to renovate it.
Right, so all the structural is gonna be inside. Anything on the external is just like an upgrading of
Is it
siding,
going to be a
adding soffit.
two
Pardon?
bedroom? Is it going to be a
Correct,
two-bedroom?
it's a
like
very,
full-
very small 2-bedroom, correct.
Right.
But we do have the floor plans, and I
Yeah.
can bring those to you and to all
Yeah.
council members
Yeah, just
within a few
for
minutes.
my
actually.
comfort.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't know how the rest of the council feel, but that's the way I feel. I just seen too many development permits go through without much detail, and then we get stuck with some of the long-term problems,
Mhm, mhm.
so that's why I'm concerned.
Again, on this one, the footprint exists. He's gonna have to add a couple windows. The existing door will stay the same. So really, other than adding a couple windows and an upgrade in the exterior finishes, there'll be nothing that the neighborhood could view as an eyesore or anything like that. But yeah, I can have those copied for you in a few minutes.
Yeah, Councillor Browning,
There is an existing driveway there, correct?
okay, and Councillor Browning.
Okay, so I'm just a follow-up to Liza's question there.
Sure.
So what happens if you approve something like this and then there's changes later on, what recourse does council have? Like if the building permit's approved with all their specs or whatever, and then it turns out to be something totally different, what
Right, we've had
recourse
this
do we
before.
have?
So that would become a non-conforming development, and we could
Shut it down or?
we could, and you know where we've gone with that in the past.
No, I
But
don't.
because
That's
it's
why I asked.
non-conforming, basically, we could let their insurance know, their insurance could be canceled because of this. There's a lot of negative effects to a person. Their mortgage could be canceled. There are a lot of negative things. We have never actually had to do this in the past, although, agreed, there have been development permits issued over the last 20 years that were not followed at all and not followed up on. Correct.
And it's going to be self-contained water and sewer, not a
Correct, it's
leaping
all
field.
hauled up
or-
there, right, and the tanks are going in the building, water and sewer, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, we do have a motion to address here. If everyone's had their comments, maybe we can ask for a show of hands. Those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I'll abstain.
One abstention. Okay, so in this case, the motion is carried. All right. New business public meeting agenda. Well, as you know, we were going to schedule a public meeting. We actually, I think, went through the process of advertising it and then it was canceled. Canceled partly because I think there was some confusion over what the public meeting's purpose was actually going to be. I actually thought it was just to do with the shelter. I think some councillors thought it was more of just an open public meeting. We only had allocated an hour. It seemed like it wouldn't be enough time just for a regular public meeting. It seems like a lot of other things were coming in on us from the sides here. And so I just said, no, let's put this off to a different time. I think it's still a good idea, but maybe in the near future, we can set a date and redo that. That's just the update on that one. Any questions? Okay.
Rosemary.
Oh, yes, Deputy Mayor.
Perhaps just before ours.
That's a
that would
good
be
time
good
because
to do it.
that's where we want to feed into the public's desires for what they want. That's a very good idea. Okay. All right, moving along to the coroner appointments, and just to review, I guess, SAO, Corrigan, can you just tell us where we're at with that?
Yes, I got an email, the one that I forwarded on to council with the letter and the form to support or not support Mr. Quaison's appointment. I also had a brief conversation with the lady from the coroner's office who explained the process. Basically, they don't actually advertise for a new coroner, apart from it being mentioned on the website that when there's a call out. But typically, people that are interested will get in touch with the coroner's office and apply. From my understandings of my conversations with the coroner's office, it's not something that people typically do for money. There's not a lot of money involved. They pay per
Thank
case.
God.
It pays per case, and if I understand correctly, a case can drag out quite a long time. But the fee the coroner gets paid is still the same as if it was a shorter case. So, but it should be someone that's respected and trusted by the community. So.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Christensen.
I'm just curious, why is this even coming to us? If we have nothing to do with payment or anything like that, if someone's getting hired for a position that the village doesn't control, it doesn't make sense to me.
As part of the appointment, as part of the process to appoint a coroner, there's some outreach with the community government, and I don't know if they contact the First Nations as well or not.
They used to.
But
I remember
but
sitting on
they-
council, they used to.
But they look for support letters and they look for indications that the coroner will be, because like I said, they want this person to be trusted and respected in the community. So that's why they have this outreach. So they did ask for an opinion from council on whether to support or not support.
Right. Okay. And so anyway, yeah, Deputy Mayor?
Was there just one person that asked for support letter? Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I did sign to say that the mayor supported, I guess, on behalf of council, but recognizing that people should have the opportunity to have a say, I asked the SAO to just see if there were any objections. There were a few concerns noted that they just wanted to at least have the time to have it presented at the council meeting. So that's where we are tonight. And depending what direction you want to give, we can either go ahead or we can forego. I don't know how important that letter is to the overall process or not. Yes, Councilor Christensen.
As SAO Corrigan mentioned, no one really wants to do this. So I think if someone's stepping up and well, not volunteering, but would like to pursue this, I don't see why we would shoot it down. In my opinion, we should be supporting this. And the previous coroner was
Mr. Herring.
Mr. Herring.
Oh, he's not doing it no more?
He's still a coroner, but they want some overlap
Oh, yeah,
time
yeah.
for.
Yeah.
Robert Firth. This is the
Oh,
other-
yeah, that's
Yeah.
right, Robert.
Yeah.
Robert was good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
I
go
have
ahead,
no
Councilor
issue
Brown.
with pointing him. I think my issue was that you jumped the gun and went and signed on our behalf. That was my issue.
Right.
I thought that should have come to council. If it's asking for council's approval, then it should come to council for approval. That was my only issue.
Yeah,
Mine also.
yeah.
Same here.
So that's good. Yeah, we're giving you guys a chance there. We'll take note of that in the future on those kinds of letters. There's other letters that we sometimes sign. I sign for the council but we might have a discussion later on what types of letters you'd like me to just go ahead and support, which type you'd like to see come back. But maybe we'll talk about that later. And so I don't really have a motion to do with the coroner, but I guess we'll take that as general approval of putting that letter in. All right. Then 11B, Council Code of Conduct. And, I know Councilor Christensen had brought this up previously. If I could, just before we get into that, I wanted to bring up something that I thought might be a good way forward for our council, not just for current situations, but for all situations going in the future, and making our council more transparent and more accountable to the people that we represent. And that is to do something similar to what the city of Yellowknife does. They hire, or they put on retainer, an integrity commissioner. That happens to be a lawyer for them. He's paid as and when work arises. It's not that often, so I don't think there's a big bill attached to it. But he takes a look at their council code of conduct, looks at issues related to conflict of interest. The public, as well as the council, could bring up issues of concern regarding council or councilor behavior and actions. And then this integrity commissioner comes back with a recommendation, and they use their legal experience based on what they can see. It's not anything that has to be followed, but it's an impartial type of recommendation. The trouble that the council will have, I think, especially if there's multiple back and forth type of things going on in a council, is to try to determine really, how do we become the judges when we've got disagreements going? I think that would be very hard. I've got a fairly thick skin. I don't really care that much what people say. I guess it gets to a point where it's difficult for us to work as a team, and we should be trying to do that as much as possible. And if we're getting off track there, let's try to get back on track. But it might be useful to take a look at this integrity commissioner, because it might be good to know that there's somebody there kind of impartially watching, and instead of complaining to each other or becoming the judge and jury ourselves, we've got a third party helping us. That I put out there as a way forward, not only now, because there might be a few issues as Councillor Christensen might want to express, but there will be other issues. Okay. Councillor Christensen, do you want to speak to?
Yeah, so I just feel like a fellow counselor broke the bylaw of prohibited actions by a council member. No member shall speak disrespectfully of the crown, other members, the public, or any employee of the village. There were several posts on the Fort Simpson bulletin board, which is, in my opinion, our main news source of activities and everything going on in the community, because we don't have a regional newspaper or anything. And Councillor Hassan put up, unfortunately, at least 10 employees working at the shelter will lose their jobs because of the council decision. I am wondering if those no vote councillors are represented the true public opinion and not support the shelter. Unity Store is giving 1 week eviction notice to the village. 3,200 does not cover power, heating bills. The council refused to pay the bills. It's unfortunate that if this matter was favoring alcohol in some way, some of those no vote councillors would have voted yes. And it is difficult for Unity to cover the shelter rent plus bills with $3,200 per month. The council refused to pay. How is that not disrespectful? How is that not breaking our bylaw? It's in Cities, Towns, and Villages Act. And how is that not conflict of interest, as he was the property owner we're renting from?
That's an easy one. Actually, we got a MACA superintendent here. He could answer that question for you, whether it was an actual conflict of interest for Moz to have spoken about his business away from the council. But it's not as you might think, because a business owner is allowed to represent their own business interests. They're just not allowed to participate in the decision-making process here at this table. And there's a very specific, you really got to look at the Conflict of Interest Act of the NWT to see what specifically, when you say that's a conflict of interest, that's the only thing that you can call a conflict of interest. Moz could have come here, sat at the front of the table, and said pretty much everything that he said in that post, and that would be, maybe you might not like what he's going to say, but that would be allowed. Is it the wisest thing to say? I don't know. But that was his choice to say it. Yeah, Deputy Mayor.
I understand that as council members, that once a decision is made, all the council speak with one voice.
Right.
That means not contradicting outside the council, not on Facebook, not talking to, community members about your displeasure. Before I was elected, I talked to several previous council members, and they said one of the hardest things is to abide by decisions you don't agree with.
Yeah.
But it's majority.
Right.
Yeah.
See, I guess if we had an integrity commissioner, we could look at the timing of those comments and whether there was an actual decision made or not. I think there was a tie vote that had been made. Now, whether you can argue whether that was a decision or not, a tie vote, and then some comments were made, I don't know. I'm not here to defend anybody, or I'm just saying, like, we should probably not be the judges ourselves. If you want to, we can take a look at an integrity commissioner. Probably sounds like we've got some work for him. Yes,
Well,
Councillor McPherson.
I agree with some of the concerns raised, because it's very unprofessional as a councillor to be putting comments like that on Facebook or any social media. Like when somebody raised, do we have a communication plan? These types of things should be addressed in those plans. And yes, like he insulted us as council, to compare us. Okay, if it was regarding liquor, the no sayers are gonna, to me, that's an insult to my well-being. And I don't appreciate Moz doing this. He wasn't in the community. He was receiving information from somebody in the community about the decisions of council. And he come back on social media. He's still not in the community. So I think this is really still unsettled, and it can't be dealt with tonight. I think there has to be a private in-camera discussion, and we'll go from there.
Okay, any, yeah, Counselor Christensen.
And yes, I think we should probably look into getting that retainer on at the commissioner.
See about an integrity
Commissioner.
commission? Yes, Counselor Brown.
Does village council, village keep a lawyer on standby? Like, I'm not on, you know what I mean? Do we have a lawyer?
You
So
know,
would
whether
that,
we would
would that
use,
position be used as an integrity commissioner? Can that position be used as an
the
integrity?
only reason I'd say
commissioner?
you might not want to do it is because, you know, if he's recommending against counselors, then he realizes that they may not want him to get other kinds of work either.
Not-
So if he's,
Who? I don't,
Yeah.
I don't operate like that.
it might be better to have
Nobody
one
else
that's
does either.
independent, doesn't have any work from the village other than that. Yes.
I'm happy to broach the subject with our lawyer. And I feel confident that if he thinks it's not appropriate, he'll tell me it's not appropriate and he'll recommend someone else.
Yeah, let's
If
do it that
council are
way.
happy, I'll.
Yeah,
I'll do that.
Because, you know, but I think even if it's, you know, if it's not deemed conflict of interest, it should be a code of conduct reprimand of some sort. You know, if it's not conflict of interest, because you don't, you know, like I just, it's very sad that we have counselors that will do that.
Right.
Or any member of council, including the mayor. You know, like we're one team, we keep saying, you gotta speak as one voice, and it's not happening. So, let's move forward.
Well, it's important that we do get over these kinds of bumps in the road, because otherwise it gets really difficult to agree on the things that we probably all wanted to do when we got here. And, you know, it's good to clarify things and make sure that we don't keep repeating the same mistakes. I agree, so. Let's see what we can do moving ahead. Councillor Christensen.
Yeah, just one other thing. I'm just worried, like, if nothing happens of this, it's setting a terrible precedence for how council can behave. So there has to be some kind of disciplinary action for this behavior, in my opinion. Thank you.
All right, okay, yeah. Anybody else? Deputy Mayor.
It's not in our budget, current budget right now, so
Right, I guess
we
we'll have to see what that might cost,
exactly.
if there's room.
It would, if it's something council wanted to move forward with, it would come into, or it would be part of our legal, fall under our legal budget. It would just, you know, we get our variance reports every month, so we would keep an eye on the bottom line and just take it month to month.
Okay, and so that's the way forward on that one for now. We'll report back. Bylaws, we don't have any to pass tonight. Correspondence and information, well, we have the RCMP policing report, and we had that discussed. Council matters and concerns. Maybe I'll go counterclockwise. Clockwise. I'll go Councillor Bellefontaine.
Nothing right now.
Okay, we can come back to you if you'd like. Councillor Wright?
Okay, where should I start? No. Snow still hasn't been dealt with, but I'm not gonna bring it up again because nobody listens. But I will say it's getting warmer and we're losing time. And the only other thing was gonna bring up was the mayor signing stuff before addressing council.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Wright. Deputy Mayor Gill?
My concern is that every meeting, councillors voice different concerns but we never know. There's no follow-up. We
Mhm.
never know what has happened to the, for example, the Arctic Energy Alliance partnership, the emergency plan, is there a flood report? What's happened with LKFN on the land camp? Commercial lease application, for the, what about is there another one? The resolutions for the AGM, for the Northwest Territories Association, coming up in June.
Go ahead, Counselor, Corrigan has.
I don't know if do you want me to touch on each of those, but,
No.
so I think it's important to, start of every meeting, I do my essay report and I try to keep council up to date on any changes or anything that are happening. If there's things you feel I've missed, or if you're wondering about something, shoot me an email, ask me questions, or even just shoot me an email and say, can you add this, can you just update council on this in your next essay report? And I'll make note of that. Of the things you've talked about, the Arctic Energy Alliance partnership, that went before council, and there were no comments, so we're going to go ahead with it as it is. It'll be signed, and that position will be posted hopefully this week. The resolution for NWTAC AGM, that went to council. The information went to council, and any resolutions will have to come from council. So that won't come from administration. So if I don't have any updates on that, if no one here around the table has any updates, then there won't be a resolution coming forth from this council anyway. That's not to say.
Is there a
Like,
deadline?
what kind of resolutions
Well,
can we make?
We
to
put
this?
in the bridge at one
The
point.
bridge one went in the past,
Okay.
yeah.
And
And again, if you've got these kinds of ideas throughout the week and you want a discussion around it, feel free to ask me to put it on the agenda. I lost track of where.
No, that's fine. If there are councillor concerns, it would be great if in your report you touched on them.
Like just to follow up to see
Yes.
what's been done about it.
Yeah, but that's the problem right there, right? If I could just, because although counselors will say things, it's information, and the SAO takes it. He won't necessarily prioritize it. I think he listens to everything that's being said. But to keep a list of like 20 things, new things every meeting that come up, it's just too much, right? I mean, I guess he's getting all kinds of inputs of information. If it's that important, I think counselors really have to bring it forth as a resolution, have a discussion, and a vote. And then it becomes like, this is going to happen because that's the will of the council. Right now, it's one person, even though you may have a few heads nodding at, how many out of the majority, and is that more important than the next one that gets talked about? So I just say that council concerns, take them for what they are. They're your personal concerns. You may have heard them from people in the community. You pass them along. He's probably
So what's
hearing
the
things
point of
too.
it then?
yeah,
It's got value.
Well, what's the value if you're just telling us it doesn't?
yeah. Just,
The SAO coordinator.
Okay, so personally, council matters and concerns, personally, I don't think it should be on the agenda. Whereas if I was a councillor, I probably would like it to be on the agenda. So it's a good chance for councillors to say publicly something that's on their mind or something that they've talked to with other community members. So for example, if there's a concern that the roads are icy or the snow's building up too much, I take note of those concerns. Tomorrow, when we talk with staff and when we have our next staff meeting, these concerns go to
Okay,
staff.
yeah, that's what we need to
I
know,
need
right?
all of these concerns. And so with the snow removal issue, that came up last week, and I talked to staff about it. And I'm confident that staff have it under control. Now, I didn't know that, and this, I've seen this, council matters concerns, I've seen this cause all sorts of problems with past councillors and past SAOs, whereby they say it and councillors say it and expect more than the SAO thinks they're expecting, you know what I mean? So it's, we have to remember that this is for, like, it's not for, you know, like if, for example, if one person has a concern about there's not enough information in the minutes, and then the meeting's over, and then the next meeting comes around, and he looks at the minutes and says, you know, why is there not more information going in the minutes? Well, there's a reason why the minutes are the way they are, and why you don't put more information in them. Now, if that councillor wants something to change, then, you know, have a discussion with me or add it to the agenda and we'll have a good discussion about it, you know, and then and we'll pass a motion and have a vote on it. Council matters and concerns are for voicing concerns, something that's on your mind, something that, you know, like roads are a bit icy, maybe we could, you know, sand the roads, and then again, I'll pass it on to staff. You know, problems with dogs, again, I'll pass it on to staff and I'll say, you know, we'll try and make more of an effort and to look out for loose dogs, you know, so things like that. But you have to remember that bringing it up at this point in the meeting doesn't mean something's going to happen, but I will absolutely, definitely take note of your concern and talk to whichever staff it's relevant to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
There's a different type of action that occurs. It's awareness, it's seed planting in the minds of people, even other counselors hear it. They may talk to you after the meeting, say, you know, next meeting, maybe we should do something. And it just depends, but it's still good to bring it up. Where are we? Deputy Mayor, you still have more? Okay. Councillor.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Browning.
No, not at this time.
Okay, Councillor Christensen.
I just wanted to say good work to the village employees. I have been noticing that there has been posting that dogs are getting caught. So they are starting to get a handle on those dogs. So thank you.
Okay. And Councillor McPherson.
No, everybody raised my concerns.
Good.
We all think alike.
Okay, Councillor Tetzel.
I've had a couple of community members approach me about the newer grader that the village had. And we were wondering why that wasn't in use.
Okay, then we're gonna answer that question right now.
Mitch, would you mind touching on that while you're here?
It was a council decision.
Yep. So last fall, the newer grader, the old one was kept as backup. It's a lighter, smaller grader. That big grader was basically a construction grader for grading gravel roads. Now that we've got all chip sealed roads, it was going to be less and less used, and we ended up causing a lot of damage to our storm drains, curbs with that big grader. It was a little much for these roads. Anyways, long story short, it turned out it had a bunch of repairs that needed to be done. It went down for service. The bill was so high, the trade-in value was still decent on it. So we traded it in, bought a new loader, and bought a blade for the loader. Okay? So it was one of these calls that had to make late last summer, early fall. What are we going to do? We're going to put a bunch of money into a grader that's a little too big for our situation, or just kind of work through the winter with the little grader and then get the new loader in. The blade just arrived about 10 days ago. The boys are still hooking it up, but they've been a little busy on a couple other jobs. So you'll probably see the new blade on the new loader here pretty quick, ripping those streets to right down the pavement. If I just speak for snow clearing for a second here, there are concerns some people have about the streets building up a little with snow and ice. As long as they're safe, I'm pretty happy with that personally. And there's traction, a little more sanding probably would be a good thing. But it does protect our water mains from freezing. That's a big thing. You strip them off, you got half the community happy, and the other community screaming at you because their water and sewer is freezing up. So it's a give and take on this one, a real give and take. As far as the bulk snow on the sides of the roads, the boys are doing the best they can, and hopefully we can get caught up with that over the next week. It's a lot of load and hauling, eh? So, they got 2 trucks going every day they can, so, and 2 loaders too, so. We are focusing on it, but it does take some time. That was a lot of snow removal. Any questions?
Well,
Okay.
that's fine, thanks.
Thank you, Mitch.
Okay,
Yeah, thanks.
any other concerns, Councillor Tetzel?
Maybe access to the ski hill. Apparently some people have been trying to drive in up top there and been getting stuck with the amount of snow up there.
Okay, is that something that we are going to clear?
It's something we have cleared in the past. It's not a fully functioning road as such. It's more of
This
a,
is nothing really, well, they do drive in though to do the snowboarding?
yeah, it's not the safest of roads, especially coming out onto the highway afterwards. So there's definitely some work needs to be done to upgrade it to make it safer. There is a liability issue with maintaining that road. In saying that has been maintained in the past. So one could argue that we already, whether we maintain it now or not, we still have accepted that liability. So I don't think, I don't have a problem with Public Works clearing the snow on that road
Right.
as we have done in the past.
Okay,
And then, we do have plans to upgrade it and make it, I guess, proper, fully sized, proper ditches for roads.
probably on a lower priority basis, but, you know,
That's it, that's it,
if it can be done now and again, it's probably a good thing.
for sure.
Okay, well, thank you, Councillor Tetzel. Councillor Bellefontaine, I ask you again, okay. So now we got the last motion here. We have no in-camera items today, am I correct? Okay, and I've got a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Gill and seconded by Councillor Wright. The council adjourned regular meeting RM03-2022 at 8:21 PM. All those in favor? 7 in
22.
favor?
22.
22.
Oh, 22, I'll mark it down. Okay, 7 in favor, none against. Motion carried. Thank you, everybody, for attending tonight's meeting. Thank you to the public.
Kind of-
Okay.
I have to wait the 7 days.